I don't know if you guys know what time it is here, but it's about that time of the show. So I told you that I used to be I'm a tour guide, licensed tour guide here in New York. So naturally, we're in the basement of a Lower East Side comedy club, which is the perfect time to give you a tour. Look at this, that used to be me right there. There's me again pointing at stuff. Holy crap, I'm a tourist in my own town. I'm a real fun guy and dabbing rat. All right, cool. Here's the deal, you guys are all sitting on the edge of your seats right now. You're wondering, hey, what is Tom possibly gonna talk about today? Well, today we are gonna talk about a neighborhood that is beautiful. It's a neighborhood with lots of immigrant history. It's a neighborhood where Al Pacino played a junkie. Woo! We're talking about a neighborhood known as the Upper West Side. Oh yeah, what's up? Upper West Side. Yeah. Pretty good Photoshop, huh? Gotta keep the kids engaged. Okay. So let's start at the beginning here. So, obviously, this is important to mention before you talk about anything with Old New York. This used to be Native American land. Hello. I don't know if you guys knew who was actually inhabiting it. The Lenape Native Americans were basically the tribe that was here. The Muncie were a subset of them. They lived in the north end of what is Manhattan Island. There were also the Canarsie over in Brooklyn. All of that under the Algonquin Nation. It's important to talk about this. So, you see a picture there. They lived in these kind of little cylinder houses trying to set the stage. So you can just imagine, here's a picture to help you set the stage of what it might have looked like. Whoa, look at that. People were like, that's a costume, a real costume. So, I know, and hey, look, this is an important thing to mention, and it's funny because I've done videos on this before. YouTube, huh? Okay. And it's funny because I'll get comments from people who actually get angry when you bring up this history. And this shows you how there is no such thing as unbiased history. That's the thing you got to realize. What stories you choose to tell, what stories are not told, that's all making a statement. So it's important that these stories that are factual are told, because that is an important thing for people to know. Yeah. Hey, no, I'm not trying to get points. Cool. I appreciate it. And I get that that's a little heavy thing to start the show and tour off with. So here's a picture of my cat. Okay, great, cool. That's Lemon. The sacrifices I make for you guys, I have to work through that. Get out of here. What am I supposed to do with that? Okay, here we go. So continuing on. Now, this area of the Upper West Side used to be known as Bloomingdale. Bloomingdale is actually named after an actual city in the Netherlands. I don't know if you guys have actually heard. Have you guys ever heard of it? Has anyone heard of it? Heard of that? No? Well, anyways, it's kind of well, here's the thing. It's actually named after a Dutch city, like many Dutch cities. Named here in New York. So, for example, Harlem is named after Haarlem in the Netherlands, right? You have Bushwick is anglicized. That was named after Boswick. It's another name that was Dutch. Also, you have Brooklyn. That was actually a Dutch town as well. And this is actually interesting. Bushwick, you have the weirdos in Bushwick. Fun fact, there's actually a little subset of Bushwick also named after a Dutch town. It's called Dutch Weirdoville. You can go check that out. All right, great. Okay, so we're talking about the Dutch, right? So interestingly enough, this man named Isaac Bedloe is one of the first people to buy a big plot of land there in the 1660s. I couldn't find a picture of them, so here is an artist's rendering. I think maybe what he looked like. You may recognize the name Isaac Bedloe because of Bedloe's Island. Bedloe's Island actually later became Liberty Island. Ah, same guy. Isn't that cool? Look at that name. Liberty Island, that's the name it became. Before it also now became Capri Pants Island. Capri Pants Island, give us your tired, hungry, poor, huddled masses yearning to commit fashion crimes. Okay. Anyways, it starts to continue on. There's still farms out there, and it gets anglicized to Bloomingdale. It's actually called Bloomingdale, this area, and also a road leading you out up the Upper West Side. It's called Bloomingdale. It actually took you initially to an insane asylum called Bloomingdale. That was what it was called, and it actually existed there till the 1890s. Kind of wild. People were put up there, insane people put up there in this insane asylum. It was eventually torn down. It's actually where Columbia is located, around there in Morningside Heights. So there is no trace with Bloomingdale of anything insane, except for the people who go to the department store named Bloomingdale's and pay $30,000 for this. That's a Birkin bag. I don't know if you guys ever heard of those. That's a $30,000 bag. All right, this is kind of depressing. Okay, let's keep moving. Here we go. Now, we're off the grid. So the grid isn't implemented until the year 1811. Ooh, now think about how big a deal this is. The grid is really what we owe New York City's entire, makeup to. The way you're, and this is an interesting fact, actually. There's a man named Milan Kundera who wrote a great novel where he describes New York as beauty by mistake, or beauty by accident, right? And I think the grid is a good example of that, because when the grid came out, people made fun of the grid as being too basic and too simple. But over time, it actually contributed to New York's openness and welcoming of all types of people. I mean, imagine you come from Sweden and you're like, hey, where do I go get some Swedish fish around here, huh? And you're like, oh, you just take a left at second, third, and you immediately know how to get around. After like 3 or 4 days, it's like a sense of belonging, a sense of welcoming, which is kind of cool. So you can imagine what it must have looked like before. So I'll set the stage with this more pictures. Look at this. So, ooh, this is what it must have looked like. You got colonists running around. It was wild, lots of trees and all kinds of stuff. And it was in this that people had to go out when they actually implemented that grid in 1811. They actually had to go around and take this land for people like this. You can imagine just bringing a piece of paper and saying, hey, man, I got to take this land. The city's taking your land. We got to run a street through it. That's a lot of crazy stuff. I'm sure they got from this guy right here. He probably is like, well, I'm going to invoke my legal right to forget about it. Forget about it. Take a walk, pal. Sorry, that was a really bad impression. Really bad. But we're going to keep moving. Okay. So anyways, another thing that's important to keep in mind is that up the west side was initially a railway. The Hudson River Railway used to run up the entire Upper West Side. And in fact, it's actually what is underneath now Riverside Park. Riverside Park was actually built alongside it. They actually covered it over the tracks and everything. So the west side of Manhattan was rails, and then also piers a little further south. But those rails were very important. It was an integral part of the Upper West Side. It's part of the identity of the Upper West Side for a very long time. I mean, you can imagine like the identity. Imagine like New York without, the Statue of Liberty. That's part of the identity. Or without the M&M store. It's like, what kind of New York is that? That was kind of what the railway played. It's kind of important. So you have Riverside Park. Now, Riverside Park wasn't put into place until the late 1860s, 1870s. Believe it or not, Frederick Law Olmsted, you guys might know that name, huh? Designed Central Park, designed Prospect Park. He kind of comes in early on, helps design this area, as does eventually Calvert Vaux, his partner in crime. And it also, lots of different architects help along the way. And then eventually Robert Moses himself gets involved in the 1930s. So it's a work in progress throughout. And actually a lot of mansions go up on Riverside Drive because of that beauty, right? And look, you guys should be keeping notes on this because you're gonna remember this when you're on a little date, huh? You're gonna be on your little dates in Riverside Park. You gotta use this stuff. You gotta use this stuff, and then you gotta invite me to the wedding. You gotta invite me to the wedding, at least the reception. If you don't have any room at the reception, that's fine. Just mail me the crab rangoon or whatever, I'm fine. And also, I'll tell you this, just an aside, I found this picture. If you guys are, I'm not a love expert, but don't ever wear that fedora. Don't do that. Not on the first date, especially. That's like a 30th date. That's when you're just, I'm gonna try something new, honey. And she's like, no, thanks. Hey, that's good. Just thought I'd throw that out. Little advice. All right, let's keep it moving. All right, here we go. So now we're gonna talk about the migrants, the immigrants, okay? So here is an interesting group. Obviously, the Jews are huge in the Upper West Side. And I chose this picture here because this is Shearith, Israel. This is actually the oldest congregation here in the United States. 1654, it dates back to. That's insane. That's actually, the Landmark Preservation Commission actually designates that as old as shit. That's old as shit. And it's kind of wild because you have a lot of the culture and everything left over in the Upper West Side. A very important place. You can't talk about the Upper West Side without talking about Zabar's. Zabar's is a really great little grocery store. Yeah, an amazing place. Louis Zabar and his wife Lillian started this in 1934. Pretty amazing thing. They do tons of things for the actual community. In fact, in 2014, Banksy put a piece up around the corner on a piece of wall, and Zabar's put plexiglass over it to preserve it, which is very sweet. If you want the exact location of it, just walk around Zabar's until you see a bunch of teenagers giving their data to the Chinese. I'm sure it's right around there. Now, we're gonna keep this moving. Now, Bloomingdale, that was a road, right? Bloomingdale going down the street. It actually eventually changed its name to Boulevard, the Boulevard, right? Now, I talked about the grid. Broadway was actually kind of an afterthought. Broadway going all the way it does now was kind of an afterthought, and what they eventually did was they linked it to the Boulevard, and then they eventually named it Broadway in the late 1800s, believe it or not. The late 1800s, that's a long time. So then it became Broadway. Before that, it was this big boulevard. That's why you have all the trees and this grand, but this grand sweeping, that's not what it looks like in Lower Manhattan. But it's a cool part and a cool integral thing of Upper West Side. So you have these little, these little places, little benches. This is actually a very famous picture here from the late 70s of these little old people sitting there in the middle of one of those little islands. Zabars also put that behind plexiglass. So they just went ahead and encased those people in plexiglass. Okay, here we go. So now we get to the real stuff, baby. Subway. Not the Jared one, yeah. The subway. So in 1904, the IRT is open. It is hard to overstate how important this was for the development of New York City. It's impossible to overstate. This is what made New York what it is today. The reason there are tall buildings in the north end of Manhattan, the reason there are tall buildings in the Upper West Side is because of this subway. So I'll show you. This is actually a picture of the Dakota building. Look at that. That's the Dakota. All by itself. This is in the late 1880s. It wasn't until the subway started going through that other and more people started coming out there. Apartments became a big thing, right? And also, not for nothing, these people are all ice skating. Look what they're wearing. They're wearing like complete suits to ice skate. It's like the late 1800s, man. They invented steam engines before they invented sweatpants. Like, good Lord, what's wrong with you people? All right. Anyways, this is the Dakota, and I want you to think about that next time you see a rat climbing up another human being in the subway. All right, you think about that, how important that subway is to us. This is New York right here. All right? This is the price we pay for being able to have brunch in any neighborhood we want. All right, we're gonna keep it moving. Let's go. All right, so now we're gonna talk about what these apartments that kind of went up. So it's actually very famous for the beautiful apartment buildings that went up along Broadway because of these things, right? So you had things being developed, speculation, late 1800s because of the subway, into the early 1800s. So you have things like the Ansonia. This is a beautiful building, one of my favorite buildings right there near 72nd. It's actually on Broadway, very pretty. It was home to Babe Ruth. Huh? Pretty cool. Was actually home to the 1919 fixing of the World Series. It took place in the Ansonia, right? And also where Bette Midler earned her chops as a singer in an underground sex club called Plato's Retreat. That is 100% true. You guys know Bette Midler? She's the one who sings, did you ever know that you're my hero? Yeah. All right, fine. You're everything I wish I could be. And I can fly higher than an eagle. But you are the wind beneath my wings. Ah, that's pretty good, huh? I digress. Sorry, that was a little much. I think the wind beneath my wings was actually written referring to a sex position from that club. So, all right, we're gonna keep moving. No, another place, another Continental Baz. I don't got time for that, sister, but thank you for that. Beth, everybody. Give it up for Beth. Nice. All right, let's keep it going. Here we go. Now, this is an interesting building. This is the Apthorpe, another building, another beautiful building up on Broadway. This was home to a lot of famous people. Conan O'Brien lived there. Al Pacino. You guys may know him as the 80-year-old man who just had baby. Very, very famous for that. Also, famously, Nora Ephron. You guys know who Nora Ephron is? A big PR, amazing writer, amazing screenwriter. And she's a huge proponent of the Upper West Side. Made movies like You've Got Mail. Have you ever seen that movie? Takes place in the Upper West Side. It's cool. It's a shame she's gone. She's not making movies like this anymore. They need to update You've Got Mail to the modern day, baby. I already got the idea. You had this guy who's communicating with someone through negative comments on his YouTube. And then he one day stumbles into a coffee shop to find the woman of his dreams writing those comments. It's called TLDR. That's pretty good, right? All right, let's keep it moving. All right, here we go. Now, subway. We're going to continue with the subway, the IND. Now, this is an interesting fact. IRT, BRT, those were subways that were actually private. They were private initially. The IND is opened later on in the 1920s. They start building it in 1932. It's finished, and it is public. And one of the reasons they built it was to sink the private ones. So then the city could take control of all of them. And that's exactly what they did. And interestingly today, this is the difference between them. These are all the letters that correspond. So IRT is 1 through 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? You have the BRT is the JMN, you see the letters. Those are all corresponding. And obviously there's some overlap and some are extended, et cetera. But generally speaking, that is what it is today. So now you know why they had those long ass tunnels connecting different ones, because they were competing with each other. They didn't want to give you an easy way to get anywhere. So next time you're walking through one of those creepy ass tunnels and the person just ends up walking right next to you and you guys creepily walk for about 10 minutes and you do your best to make the person feel not threatened, you're just trying to get home, you can think of this fact. Pretty cool. All right, let's keep it going. Migrants number 2, San Juan Hill. San Juan Hill is a very interesting area near what is today Lincoln Center. This was actually home to a huge African-American community before they left to go to Harlem, right? Interestingly enough, this is where the Charleston was invented. Huh? You guys know the Charleston? That little dance like one like this? Huh? Like this, like this. That one, that's pretty freaking good. I just did that out there. Okay. So the Charleston was actually invented later. It actually became a Puerto Rican stronghold. A lot of Puerto Ricans came and lived in that area, and it's actually where I have a little. I was going to say the Charleston is not this. That's Charleston, South Carolina. But here is actually became Puerto Rican, and before it actually got demolished to make Lincoln Center, they actually used the land and the actual empty buildings to film West Side Story. Yeah, very cool. So when you see that original West Side Story, they're actually using the evicted buildings, all that stuff, of the people who actually used to live there. That's kind of interesting. I think that's an interesting fact. Also, fun fact, I recently went to El Salvador, and I found out that Latin American gangs don't actually greet you by snapping their fingers. Learned that one the hard way. All right, keep it moving. Lincoln Center is built in this area. Like I said, it was one of the crown jewels of a man named Robert Moses, who you guys may know, master builder. You guys may know him from the 1,400-page book, The Power Broker. You guys should buy it and read it, or you can buy it and use it to put down a sick horse or something. That thing is huge. That thing is gigantic. Or you could just put it on the back of your Zoom calls like everyone else does. But it talks about this. It is a beautiful, development with it's a home to the Metropolitan Opera, home to the ballet, home to the Philharmonic, and it was designed by a man named Wallace Harrison, who not only was the right hand to the Rockefellers, he also designed the Rockefeller Center, he designed the Lincoln Center, he helped with the UN, all while looking like Uncle Fester. Pretty crazy. All right. Let's keep it moving. So right next door is Juilliard. You guys may have heard of Juilliard. It actually originated in 1905. It was an Academy of Music. Then it combined with this other bequeathed, academy that was made by this man named Augustus Juilliard. The original academy was actually made as a music academy and a home for people who spent their high school practicing an instrument and getting stuffed into lockers. Now, I don't know if you knew this, but Augustus Juilliard, an interesting story, he was actually born at sea while his mom was emigrating to the United States. I thought I was confused because my mom spoke Spanish at home. This guy has got to have no idea what the hell he is. But it's still pretty interesting. This guy came, he bequeathed all that, and he made Juilliard. So anyway, we're gonna keep it moving. Central Park West. I didn't talk about Central Park West because I kind of consider it a little separate. And it's interesting because people sometimes from Central Park West will say they're from the Upper West Side, but it's just faux modesty. Get out of here. You live in the come on, you live in Central Park West. When people say they live in Upper West Side and they actually live on Central Park West, that's kind of like people from Harvard saying they went to school in Boston. You're not fooling anybody, dude. Your whole house is worth the entire building we live in. So anyways, this is Central Park West. Now, Upper West Side has got a ton of history. I could have spent a ton more time on this. Look, I had like 15 minutes to talk about all this. I'm trying to cram as much as possible. And it's funny, I'll post these online and people will be like, he forgot to talk about all this. I'm like, dude, I got 15 minutes. And I got to go to the bathroom. Give me a break. But Upper West Side is an incredible, beautiful place. It's like, and these people who are commenting and all that stuff, they're just people who are very sad and probably incels. So I'll set you the stage. Here you go. This is what it probably looks like when they comment. That guy. I don't know. And look, say what you will about social media and the internet, but I Googled incel and it gave me that perfect picture. Okay, so it can't be that bad. But that is the story of the Upper West Side, huh? Pretty cool. We talked about a lot, baby. We covered a lot. I tried my hardest to get as much as I could in there, but it's a great neighborhood. You should definitely go check it out. Anyways, we're going to keep this show going. I still got some more show. We got a lot of stuff to cover. Are you guys enjoying yourselves so far? Yeah, it's pretty good so far. All right. Well, I'm going to bring up this